Good day, everyone. My name is Ibrahim Adepoju, and I am the founder and the CEO of Tyms. Tyms is an accounting software leveraging artificial intelligence to automate processes for accounting firms and business owners. And today, again, we're back on our work podcast titled The Future Ledger. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at the role of AI and automation in budgeting and forecasting. And for us to be able to discuss efficiently, in a topic like this, bringing experts, someone who has a vast experience when it comes to management, reporting, forecasting, budgeting, to share some insight with us so that we can get to understand what budgeting and forecasting is and what is the impact of AI and automation. So I would love our guest, Mr. Abiodun Akala, to introduce himself. Thanks so much, Mr. Abiodun Akala.
Thank you for having me. Really delighted to be in this section. Of course, wherever we discuss AI and finance, I am someone that is very passionate about these key major areas of businesses. And like you have mentioned, of course, I'm Abiodun Akala. I have had the opportunity to work in different industry in the FMCG space, and also currently in the telecom space. And within the various roles I've taken up so far, I've been able to always be a major player in putting together budgets, financial models for the business. So I will be talking through based on my previous experience in doing this budget and forecasting for businesses of large scale and small scale as well, because I've also had the opportunity to do this for smaller businesses as well. So yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome, Mr. Abiodun. So I think we're going to be starting because one thing is that if you're an accountant, you likely be working with a business, and if you're a business owner, you also be working with an accountant, and everything circles around the business. We're solving the problem for a business. So the first question that I have here is why do small, medium, and large scale businesses need budgeting and forecasting?
All right, thank you. Basically, to answer the question, I think first of all, we need to understand what budget really means. A budget, in simple terms, is just an allocation of your financial resources, and of course, a forecast is much different from budget. While forecast is you have a goal, and this is your plan to achieve the goal financially. In simple terms, this is what these items mean individually. So when it comes to budgeting, it's also beyond putting numbers together. It's really core to a business strategy, because for every organization, we have a mission, we have a vision, we have the core values that are going to drive the vision and the mission of the organization. But on the finance aspect, the finance strategy has to be in place. And how do you turn your mission and vision into a working model, into an operating model that helps you to achieve your vision and mission that you have stated from the inception of your business? So budget is that wheel that keeps the business going and putting it on track of how you achieve your mission. So for smaller businesses, budget and forecasting basically can be the only difference you have between survival and closure of a business. And for larger businesses, of course, this can be an element that drives profitability, helps you gain competitive advantage, and of course, strategic alignment helps you to align your strategy. And when I'm saying this, I'm really looking at it from the perspective, because first of all, when we are coming up with budget, one of the first things we already do is to look at the strategic alignment. How much do we have to spend this year? What do we want to achieve based on our mission? Broken down into years. This year, we have said we want to expand across Africa. Okay, so this year we are already in Nigeria, but we need to solidify our roots in Nigeria. Then the question from budget perspective is, how much do we want to grow in this current year? So that is where budget comes in. Oh, I want to grow 8% my revenue. By doing that, I would have solidified or gained more market share in the space within this period. And by doing that, um, a it gives me like a target or if a focus for that specific period where which the budget covers. Of course, remember, for instance, this is 2024. By this time of the year, a lot of organizations have already they already have their budget for 2025. So it's really not about putting the numbers, like I said. It's really about the driving the strategy of the business. And that is why you then bring in forecast, because forecast then now look at this budget and say, oh, okay, this is what I want to achieve based on my budget or commitment for the year. How do I want to achieve it? Oh, there's a deviation here. I plan to make 1,000 naira profit this year, but now because FX has gone up, it's no longer realistic. Oh, what can I do? Okay, I need to increase my sales to achieve this 1,000 naira. That is exactly what forecast does. So basically, I actually, and there's a saying that whatever you cannot measure, you cannot control it. So it's always going to be like driving a car without the dashboard when an organization does not have a budget or the forecast process in place to drive the business.
All right. Thanks so much for that. I think the last point is a very important one. It's like driving a car without a dashboard. And it's like whether you're a small, medium, or large scale business, you need budgeting and you need forecasting, and you are able to give us a differentiation between both. You can make a budget and there will be a deviation at some point, and you should be able to make adjustments in that deviation based on maybe previous data from maybe your revenue growth rate and other more, and that give us the forecasting. And this is a very amazing question. Like on Tyms you have these budgeting features where organizations are able to create budget, allocate to different departments, provide their budget, they review it. And I said something that this period Q4 is the period where the organization should have the budget of 2025, and that's a very important thing. And that is one of the reasons why we're doing this session within that particular period, because this is an important period for this kind of topic. And if you're looking at preparing your budget, you are here to arrange for that, you should be looking at a system where you can be able to automate the process. So, but one thing we want to know again is like whether automated or no automated, there are manual ways that people have been doing this before now. And what do you think are some of the manual ways and what do you think are likely the disadvantages of using those manual approach in preparing this your budgeting and your forecasting?
Yes, of course, that is actually a very valid question. Budgeting, like you have also hinted, is one of the most dreaded period for most accountants because the process is always very tedious and cumbersome, because at this time you are basically putting together loads of data in different forms, shapes, from different sources as well. You are bringing all of this together to actually communicate your commitments, your financial commitments towards the goal of the business. So at this point, to non-finance people, they see that the way that is the area where finance used to limit our spend. But of course, budget is far beyond that. It's more of a strategy. Of course, like I've also re-emphasized, it's more of a strategy. And the basis of doing this is usually to ensure that we don't have a strategic drift. That is, we are looking at our strategy and looking at a budget, and we are able to see a great level of correlation between both. So, meaning currently, while this process is very tedious and cumbersome, right, it's still a much more important process for every organization. And what most organizations, I would say, use tools like the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. They use spreadsheets to collate this data. So basically, at this stage, you are actually doing three things, three key things within the budget period. First of all, you are collecting data. Second of all, you are cleaning up this data. And then thirdly, after cleaning up this data, you then have to analyze it. And I believe analyzing this data is actually the most critical part of the process, the entire process, because you see insights, you compare it with what are the organization's expectations, and you do the alignment at this stage. That's where you see a lot of people say, finance cut our budget, this and that. So that is the stage where we really need to spend more time. Using this manual process, we actually spend more time collecting this data and cleaning it up. So basically, most organizations spend about 80% or even 90% of their time in collecting this data. And because of this bottleneck, a lot of organizations, you'll be surprised that a lot of organizations actually start the next year budget in Q2 because they understand the amount of data you need to collect, and they also understand the level of accuracy it has to come with, because it's a very, very important driver of the business strategy. So organizations use spreadsheets, collect this data, analyze them, and also provide insights on this using the spreadsheet tool majorly. And one of the major issues that this process has is the fact that it's time consuming. Like I've mentioned, it takes a lot of time. It's not something, if you depending on the size of the organization, especially in medium or large scale businesses, you cannot really, it's almost impossible to complete your budget within one month or 2 months. So it's really time intensive, so it takes a lot of time. Is also very prone to human error, because of course in the financial model you really cannot have 100% control in terms of accuracy on it. You can easily maybe make a minor error of putting an addition where you should have a subtraction, and that's it, and that blows up the whole model. You can put one where you should be putting two, and that may change the entire assumption and process. And so, and also you actually now spend less time providing insights on the data you have collected. So the current process is quite tedious, using the manual entries and spreadsheets. Of course, a lot of organizations or finance professionals are taking initiative of maybe trying to make the model as simple as possible, but I can still assure you that it still doesn't take away the intensity of workload that comes with budget generally.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And I think if we pick the disadvantage, one of the most important disadvantage of this manual ways is like it's time consuming and it's very tedious. And the manual ways, one of the most popular tool that you explained to us is using the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet. Get this, and when an organization gets very big, there's a need for a lot of people to provide their own budget, and we feel like it's not just about the number, it's about collecting data. And you got to let us know that sometimes it might be the Q2 of the budget year before some people even get this done. And these are a lot of limitations, and these are good pointers to areas where automation can come in. And when we look at automation, we are looking at it across the area of data collection, and because these are the problems that you listed, and also the part of the part of area where you feel like time, it takes time. Those are the areas that we need to automate. So we just love you to share with us what are your experience around automating this process, and the need to automate it, and the benefits compared to the manual way. Just share some light with us, and if you have some samples from your experience or things that you do, things like done, script that you've written, just share it with us so we can gather more experience. We know that Tyms is also one of the solutions out there where we've been able to automate this, but we still need to gather as many knowledge as possible for us to better know the comparison and deciding on the best choice.
Yes, thank you very much. First, for context on the need for automation, for most organizations, mostly the medium and large scale businesses, you found out that aside from the annual budget that you have, you also have forecast process, which is usually done periodically, which is like monthly. Some do quarterly, but most that I know of usually do monthly. So you can imagine going through this process every month. Every month, you can imagine how complex that kind of process will look like. So it means that there's definitely need to get some of this process automated. And then one of the ways we can currently organizations get this automated is, of course, uh, trying to put in this collect input swiftly, maybe sharing forms, putting up a SharePoint folder to gather information, or you need to put your input before this time and in this specific structure in a way that it fits into the model. And then of course, to one of the ways I know particularly that we usually try to automate this process as well is the use of maybe Power Query in the Excel function to automate the data cleanup as much as possible. This actually saves a lot of time. Also, we also can make use of Power Automate, which helps us to maybe keep track of the timelines, or this input, share this email at this time, sending a reminder, requesting for updates, requesting for input. All of this can also be automated using the Power Automate interface and some other work too. And specifically, there are also different kind of tools that are sophisticated tools like Tyms also that can actually be used. But I think most importantly, it's very essential that if it will, a lot of finance professionals will appreciate if there is a tool where you can have all of this embodied in one package in a way that you can see. I've mentioned like 3 different packages. Oh, move from this one to this one, but it makes our life exactly. So it makes our life easier if I have to do all of them on one system, and every part of it is just like a one click away from getting done. So, and what will this do for me as the finance person in charge of budget? First, it will increase my level of efficiency. I will have to spend less time during budget. Boastfully tell you that I'll be done with budget in 1 month, given that I'll gather the data, put in the timelines, follow up, get the data, it's already clean, and I will now have to spend more time during the analysis to gather insight on this input that I've received. And of course, it will also help me to drive accuracy. Like I mentioned earlier, you can easily make an error using spreadsheet, but this will help me to drive accuracy because, for instance, a system has a check in a way that it will not even, it's just immediately I'm putting the data, it's telling me that no, something is wrong, and I'm wondering. I may now then look at it and say, oh, this should be positive, not negative. And of course, AI can also help us to drive in real-time insights. That is, when we want to do budget, try to gather as much macros that affect our business. And when I say macros, macroeconomic metrics like the GDP, inflation, FX rate. So sometimes I need to know what's the sensitivity of my profit. What happens to my profit if FX increase by 2%? What happens to my profit? Do I go into a loss? And again, most times you see a lot of people struggle with this part. They don't have time to do this sensitivity analysis because they have spent a lot of time gathering and cleaning up the data. So, but with the use of a system, I can easily just make 10 different assumptions, maybe in one click, to say, oh, okay, FX changes by 10%. And especially in the space where we currently operate, where FX swing left and right currently. So this kind of analysis, what happens if NPR increase? What happens to my numbers? I also want to see these things real time. And these are the things AI can actually put together for us. And and of course, in terms of scenario planning, okay, aside from all of this change in these macros or key factors, what happens if revenue reduces? If I increase my revenue for this particular category of my operation by 10%? What really happens to my profit? Does it increase by 10%, or I need to do this? So it helps me gain insight and even help me to drive profitability and of course drive efficiency within my financial model and of course the business strategy as a whole.
Yeah, I think that is essential. Because one thing is that we see that budgeting, forecasting is also going line by line with the actual accounting, because that's how we get to analyze our variance at the end of the day. So both are just moving together, because it's either you follow the actuals or you follow the budget and the actuals together, to make informed decision. Because this thing has to be happening in real time. Just as you said, real time is one of the most important things where automation needs to come to play. And also one advantage that AI is also able to do is, like, there's some models that have been trained with data of some information that are very current. And one of the amazing things that our team are also doing at times is we are also improving on some models to ensure that they are up to date with some key assumptions that are needed in some activities in accounting, like budgeting, like this. So we ensure that when it comes to accounting and the need of AI, we are focusing on that segment. Because if I'm looking at NPR, and I don't want to be the one going around Google to get this data, but this data might be up to date on a version of Gemini, it might be on a version of ChatGPT, but some might not still be there, but we need them. We come in to upgrade the model in such direction, and I can easily pull this data and use it, for my assumption. Also, I think also the error prone AI also have a lot of role to play here. And there's still a lot of formula. As you said, yeah, you look at the percentage of something, compare it to this thing. By the time you put all this formula on spreadsheets, the one intern or someone just comes second day and touch something, that is the end of everything. A system like Tyms, where you just have an interface, you are in control of your variables, you set up your formula, you set up your period, and systems like these are a good advantage, because you don't have to be putting the formulas, or you can set permission to users that can, if you don't have this permission, you cannot do this and that. So I feel like that's where we see that automation is very, very efficient. It's a very big space. It's honestly a very big space. And if we're to start discussing about the budgeting and forecasting side of accounting today, I'm telling you that won't be done, because we get to unravel a lot of things. One thing I'm just curious about is, like, we have the LLM, and where we have stuff like ChatGPT, we have stuff like Google Gemini, and people have been applying generative AI for a lot of things in different spaces. And one of the things is also we are also leveraging LLM at times. And some updates that are coming to our budgeting feature is it's also the ability to discuss with your budget, communicate with your budget via natural language, and get your insights. But one of the most popular LLM that we've seen out there is the ChatGPT. But although the difference between Tyms and ChatGPT is that ChatGPT is working based on data available on a broad scope, but Tyms is working based on data that you have provided, you have fed into your accounting system. So I get to know the country your business is working, I know the nature of business you're doing, I have information of your actuals, then I'm able to correlate and show you. But if we look at the GPT, generative AI, what has your experience been like? Have you tried using anything in that space before in your role, and how do you think you're able to apply those tech?
Okay, yes, actually, generative AI specifically is something I've also tried to use a couple of times, and of course I found the use very fascinating with the level of information and data that it's able to provide, and so it makes me understand your perspective, like you have mentioned, on how Tyms actually will then be able to leverage the current information based on. So like for instance, ChatGPT or something does not know my business, does not have the data of my business. I cannot really go there and say, how is Abiodun Akala doing this month? Do you understand? Or something like Tyms that is centered around the specific information within that space, is able to provide specific insights that really would me gain more insight about my business and my financials in general. So yes, I have a good understanding of how the generative AI works, and also I also know that there are some AI that are able to do some level of prediction based on the previous data, and of course can actually scan um through news that are related to my business and tell me that, see, this is happening right now, and I think this is the impact on your bottom line. So something like that, it actually just gives us a picture of the way the future of finance it looks like. And of course, we cannot really meet ourselves just in that. It's a process. And I think we are currently in the process of getting to the future of finance. And I'm happy that I'm in finance at this transformative stage.
Yeah, thanks so much. That's very awesome. I think one part that I've seen here is also the trend analysis. The AI with data information are able to collect trends for me. This has been a very amazing session. I really appreciate your time. We really appreciate your time. We've gathered enough insight here today, and this has been a very cool experience because it's the budgeting season. You are meant to be preparing the budget of the organization out there today, this quarter, and one thing is you don't want to trap yourself in a lot of spreadsheets, and maybe by the end of the year, you just open the sheet and you just see a lot of error, exclamation. You feel like, oh, so, but it's very important to get to know how we can automate this thing, because we can't keep doing the same thing the same way and be expecting a difference. So, really appreciate your time today, Mr. Abiodun, and thanks so much, everyone, for listening to this podcast. We meet you again next week. Bye bye.
All right, thank you. Bye.